Hey there. Welcome. I'm Ryan D. with the Data Visualization Society's Geospatial Interest Group. Thanks all for taking the time today to join us for Kinga Hill's talk on making maps with art and science. Looking forward to that, as well as the discussion to follow on the left and right brain in data visualization. But Kinga, before I kick it over to you, I wanted to share a little bit about the growth with the geospatial interest group. I I rejuvenated the group initially because I was just looking for like-minded individuals who were interested in international perspectives in a inclusive community where everybody has a voice. And since we started the LinkedIn page about 2 months ago, actually today we're about at 800 followers on that. 1,200 on the topic mapping channel on the DVS Slack. And so on screen is a map of the registrants in their home countries for the kickoff event. My talk was on storytelling with maps. And then 24 countries were represented in that. And I was thrilled for that. When Matt Forrest was getting ready to chat, he bumped it up to 30 countries for his talk on the modern geostack, raster organization for web optimization, and Kinga. Here's the 61 countries represented here today. Uh, Here to hear about the left, the right brain in making art with maps. So yeah, 8 countries in Africa, nearly all of Europe, Oceania, and the Americas. Pretty thrilled to have everybody out. Great. Go ahead and stop sharing that. Anyway, sorry about that. King, I was very thrilled when you agreed to have this talk today. Thanks for all the work you've put into it. When we had the chat on the left and right brain, I knew you were the person I wanted to do this talk just because I love your artwork that you make with maps and data science and the work in our collaboration in the past that you've taken my rudimentary designs and turned our work into something quite beautiful. Really respect your work and your journey, and certainly looking forward to your talk today and the discussion to follow. So while you're getting your screen set up for your presentation, just letting everybody know the comments are open while King is talking. Cedric Larry, the early career director with DVS, is also in the background. Both he and I are going to try our best to answer your questions. So go ahead and feel free to post those along the way. If we don't get to them, don't worry. There will be a Q&A hereafter. Looking forward to hearing your perspectives and questions and the discussion on that. So welcome again. And Kinga, yeah, you have the ball.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, DVS. What an honor and what a turnout. Oh my gosh, over 60 countries. This is amazing. I don't know what I did to deserve this. I really appreciate it. And I'm so happy to be here to share my work. This is something that makes me happy. And it's very interesting to see that other people appreciate it. So Ryan and I had this chat a few months ago, and this topic came up, this tension between left and right brain, and we thought it would be really interesting to talk about. But before I talk about that, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself, a little bit about my background in case you don't know who I am. I was born in Poland. Oh, hello from Seattle. I was born in Poland, and my family emigrated to New York City back in the 90s when I was a kid. And that move was very stressful for me as a kid because in Poland, I grew up in a very rural area and I spent a lot of time outside. In New York City, I couldn't do that anymore. So that event in my life put me on a direction to study environmental science. And I got my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in environmental science because I enjoy the topic so much. And after graduating, I was a professor and a scientific researcher. I researched wetlands for many years. And I ended up enjoying growing up in New York City. There's nothing against New York City. I do, and I'm happy I had my childhood there too. And then 5 years ago, I decided, wow, like a lot of people are from Switzerland, Berlin, India, Syracuse. I love Syracuse. Nigeria. Wow. So I 5 years ago, I transitioned to data science, to the private sector. I wanted to step away from academia. And these days I work for a super cool environmental technology company that uses sensors to monitor the sewer. And monitoring the sewer is so fun and so interesting. I learned so much working at SmartCover. I get to analyze the sewer data that comes in, and I feel like I make an impact in the world, and my work is very interesting. So I love my work as a data scientist. But what the heck does any of this have to do with maps? Well, it doesn't much. I don't do too much mapping in my day job. Although I try to work it in, I try to work in it as much as I can. In fact, I have people from various departments at work, from like marketing or sales or hardware, reaching out to me to make maps for them because I do advertise that I love making maps. So I try, but my main map making is mostly a hobby. I visualize things because I visualize things in maps because I care about the topic or I want to explore something. So I first started mapping 20 years ago when I was introduced to ArcMap from Esri by my master's advisor. And as soon as I opened this software, I was in love because I'm a visual learner, and it was really interesting to see the data that I was analyzing for my research project, like in front of me spatially. That was really engaging for me. And I've been in love ever since. I've been making maps for 20 years since that day I first opened ArcMap. And I've loved every minute of it. And I do try to work maps in anywhere I can. I do also freelance on the side making maps. So that's there's a little bit of like a professional aspect to my map making, but that's mostly a side gig. So most of the maps you'll see are things I made personally. I have been posting on LinkedIn for 4 years and sharing my maps there and getting really great feedback there. So I do enjoy doing that. But we're here to talk about the left and right brain struggle. And what I found over the years of working with data and maps and data visualization is that I've realized that there are these buckets that people kind of fall into. There are people who are more analytical and are not really interested in that polishing step of presenting their results. And there are people who are more creative and want to spend time making things beautiful and are less inclined to do any kind of deep analysis, or maybe they'll say like, oh, they don't like, math doesn't like them. So I tend to I tend to be surrounded by more of the analytical people who don't want to get creative, rather than the creatives that don't want to be analytical. So if there are any creatives out there, let me know if I'm not correct. But I did notice this divide. And I personally have found myself crossing this divide back and forth. And I enjoy both very, very much. So this is the center of the topic, that this divide is imaginary. The vision between the left and right brain, the analytical and the creative, has been debunked many times over, and it's not real. We can all use both sides of our brain, and we should not stick ourselves into any particular bucket. So I'm here to help you maybe bridge this gap a little bit if you're struggling with reaching either one of those sides. Because I do truly enjoy, being analytical. I love numbers, and I also enjoy the data visualization part. Because think about it, if you got stuck in either one of those halves, if you just focus on analytics, you would skip that final flourish, that final presentation, that final communication, and your map would fail to persuade because you haven't put the effort to make it interesting. And then if you were only stuck in the creative side and you spend so much time making something pretty, and much less time thinking about the analytics behind you, there probably wouldn't be any analytics there to even show. So your map is pure design, which is interesting. Both sides are interesting by themselves, but it's together. When they come together, things get supercharged. And we're here to talk about bridging that gap and supercharging your work. I put that little triangle to show where I kind of fall. I think I tend to lean more creative. It's just something that brings me more joy. But I definitely use both sides equally. Man, I love all the comments coming in, but I can't keep up with them. So Ryan, you keep up with the great comments. So here's an example. On the left, we have a map that I made that is technically correct. It involved an analysis behind the scenes, but whatever this map is what the default software gave me. So very little polishing of any sort. And obviously it's hard to interpret because what does this even mean? There hasn't been any attention paid to how to annotate this or visualize it in a way that communicates the information. And on the right side is a beautiful map that I made, that I worked very hard on because I wanted to learn how to fill a geographic shape with a picture, and I succeeded, and I was very proud of myself. But this map has no meaning. It has no data behind it. It's beautiful, and I received a lot of great comments about it on LinkedIn, but it has no meaning. And in fact, it could be misleading because maybe somebody would think that those are the most common flowers in New York State. So, if you lean on either side, it could be a misfire. So I came up with a few basic tips that I could give you. If you're struggling with either one of your sides, your analytical or your creative, you could look at some of these tips, maybe adopt some of these habits to help you cross over. So talking about left brain basics, this is your analytical, logical side. So for analytics, analytical integrity is just the number one thing. Whatever data analysis you're doing, whatever algorithm you're using, it's really important to make sure that your data is accurate and it's cleaned well. You've examined your outliers and you understand your data set. This is especially true in a professional setting, because if you're going to present this information to somebody, you're going to get questions about the results, and you should be comfortable sharing what it means, what some of the gaps might be, and understanding the quality of your data. Because if you don't, you're going to lose trust from the people listening to you, and gaining trust back is really challenging when it comes to data. So focus on understanding data accuracy. Tip number 2 is remembering to transform. When it comes to mapping, there is a strong desire to just put numbers on the map. And a lot of the times those numbers are going to be raw counts of something. But raw counts tend to be more meaningful when you transform them in some way. So make them a percentage of something or rank them or something. When you transform your numbers, a little bit more meaning can come out. Tip number 3 is to aggregate data. This is, again, thinking about it spatially. A lot of spatial data comes as points or something. And if you aggregate, and it can be very diffuse and kind of hard to see and understand on a map. But if you aggregate information into some kind of buckets, you could put them into states or counties or something else. If you aggregate, a little bit more meaning comes out, and the information is easier to translate. Tip number 4 is to be mindful of your own bias. Every time you work with data, you bring your own bias into the picture. So all the experiences that you've had, that are filling your brain, you bring that in. And sometimes that could skew how you're interpreting the data. So I don't have any clear ways to avoid this, but just being aware that that's there, that has come up in my own professional life, just being aware that that's there and being a critical thinker, really bring your critical thinking. No one here is biased. And then tip number 5 is leaning into AI tools. I don't think AI tools are going anywhere, and it's hard to tell where society is going to go with AI tools. Maybe we'll experience a total collapse, but in terms of analytics, AI is excellent, just excellent at coding, analytics. And so I just don't see any reason not to use the tool to bridge this gap, especially if it's scary. If an algorithm is scary, if you don't understand a calculation, ask AI to help you through. And then eventually with practice, you'll get more comfortable. So I'll show you some maps that relate to all these left brain basics. So this map relates to analytical integrity. I made this map of the city of Portsmouth, and I wanted to show social infrastructure density. So I mapped my social infrastructure. Social infrastructure are things that support a community. So things like churches, hospitals, fire stations, grocery stores. So I wanted to map the social infrastructure. So I mapped it, and then I did a density analysis and identified a desert. And I was so proud of myself. And I posted this map on LinkedIn, and there was a question that, is the desert real, or is it an artifact of like the edge effect? Because I clipped all of my social infrastructure to the shape of the town. Did I like artificially remove the things from outside the town, which caused the desert? And that was an excellent question, but I didn't have a good answer because I didn't think that deeply about that analysis. I could have checked, but I wasn't sure about the answer. So it's just an example of how I did not think that deeply about this analysis. By the way, because I've been posting maps for 4 years on LinkedIn, I've had a lot of positive and also negative feedback. So I went through trial by fire so I could share some of these learnings with you. Map number 2 is about remembering to transform. I love mapping PhD counts because I hold a PhD, and PhDs are pretty rare. It's a topic that I enjoy mapping about, and the US Census collects information about education, so I like to make maps about it. So I did this like pretty intense hotspot analysis. That was like a deep analytical technique, and I was so proud of myself that I achieved it. And then I mapped the results. But the first map that I made was of raw counts of PhDs in the United States. And that is such a ridiculous thing to do, because obviously cities with higher populations are going to have higher numbers of PhDs. It's just such a dumb moment. And the Midwest, where the population is low, has low counts of PhDs. So there's nothing interesting and informative about this. But if you transform raw counts as a percentage of a population, this is where the interesting patterns come out. This is where Seattle shines, and the Research Triangle in North Carolina and Massachusetts, and even New Mexico has the highest hotspot. I actually learned something when I posted about this, that Oppenheimer, that whole thing with the nuclear weapons happened there. So I was like, oh, okay, I learned something new from my hotspot analysis. So transforming really made a huge difference here for this map. Map number 3 is aggregating data. This map I wanted to make for about pedestrian and cyclist crashes in my city. I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And the data comes as points, and points are okay, but like I said, they kind of get busy, messy, diffuse. But if you aggregate them into these little bins of little hexagons, I love little hexagons, the information starts to have a little bit more meaning, because you could even get that little bin of where both happen at the same time. And that's hard to see if you have points, but if you bin them that way, you could see where both are happening. And obviously they're happening in the core of the city. And I actually had a thought recently about that this is also raw counts. I probably should have transformed by population density. You live and you learn. So now thinking about our right brain. So this is the creative side. If you're struggling with your creative side, maybe you could follow some of these tips and explore this side of your brain. So tip number one is that humans see hierarchy. Our brain and our eyes want to process information in order. The first thing that stands out, and the second thing that stands out, and the third thing that stands out. If you highlight everything, you're highlighting nothing. So it's important to remember that you need to think about the user's eyes and brain. What do you want them to process? The second tip is that humans interpret things with emotion and their own bias. You have a bias as a data analyst, but your reader also has their biases. So when making maps, again, this is just nothing you can really do about it, but just keeping that in mind. And this could work for or against you. High emotion could mean that people love your map. You could inspire people to act. You could inspire people to learn, do something. But you could also annoy some people, and they'll come and get you. So it could go both ways. Tip number 3 is that your map should not be an accident. You have so much control when you're mapping. You can share an opinion. You could make an argument with your map. You get to decide what you put in it and what you leave out. You are the storyteller. So don't resort to the defaults that the software gives you, the default colors, shapes, scales, whatever it is. Lean into the fact that you are the map maker and your map is your strategy, your opinion. Tip number 4 is to embrace white space. That's a loose rule. I don't think that's a hard rule that anybody should live by. Every map maker has their own kind of style. I tend to embrace white space. And what that means is like cutting things out, leave as little as possible. And you'll see that. And you've already probably seen that in the maps. But I tend to cut a lot of stuff out and leave very little behind for the viewer to look at. And tip number 3 is to copy whoever inspires you. I copy people with abandon. I get inspired by so many maps that I see everywhere, and I try to copy them. And I learned a lot through that process. When I work through, I like literally try to copy the map and think about the design choices that person made and what those design choices mean and how I can replicate them. So it's been, that's been helped me learn a lot just by copying people that inspire me. And I have like portfolios of people saved to refer to, but I see a lot of maps that inspire me on LinkedIn. I don't even go anywhere beyond LinkedIn. There's plenty of stuff over there. So first map to review for those rules, it actually follows 3 rules. Hierarchy, it's not an accident, and it uses a lot of white space. So this map basically got me my freelancing gig. I made it for a person, and she loved it so much that she hired me, and I've been working with her for years. So it's so simple because on the map itself, I show just 2 things. So 2 things for your brain to focus on: green space and vacant lots. And I thought that it was just so powerful that there are these 2 neighborhoods in Chicago that are right next to each other. And one is so green and one is so vacant. And that just becomes so obvious when you just overlay those 2 things. And the map had a bigger purpose. I was looking for potential places for orchards, but beyond that those 2 pieces of information themselves are just so powerful. And you could see, for me, I tend to remove stuff. Like I don't love using base maps for things. I strip it away. You don't need to know where this is. You just need to know the comparison between those 2 neighborhoods. I know cartographers that love a good base map and spend hours adjusting the little labels, and labeling things is very important for them. So their maps tend to be very rich because the belief is that the viewer, when they see a map and they could recognize a street or a place or a town, they feel more connected to the map. And I agree, but that's like one cartographer's take. So again, the white space thing is not a hard rule. And there are so many beautiful maps that are rich with labels and colors and things. I just tend to strip things away. This map follows the rules of hierarchy. I made this map to make the point that 3 categories is better than 10. And I learned this lesson the hard way, as usual. I was presenting my master's research to my graduate committee. And one of the people in the committee, the person responsible for deciding if I'm going to pass or fail my master's degree, asked, why did you choose 10 categories to show your research? And I did not have a good answer. I was like, it dawned on me in that moment, why did I choose 10 categories? 10 categories is so many for the eye to look at, for the brain to process. It's just too many. And believe me when I tell you, since then, and that was 20 years ago, since then, I have not made a 10 category map again, because there's just no reason. It's just too much information to process. So stick to 3 categories, and that is so much easier for the brain to see. Okay, I see purple, that seems important. I see green, that seems important, and I see white. So I rarely go above 3. There's just no reason to. I did get one criticism about this map, is that the white color I chose for the in between is a little bit tricky, because it makes your eye think like, is this missing data? It just kind of glazes over. The white makes it fade in the background. So I probably would choose another color to fill there, to let people know that there's still information there, but just pay less attention to it. This map is a bunch of rules again. Hierarchy, emotion, not an accident, white space, except it's not white, it's navy. I made this map about the state of North Carolina after Hurricane Helene blew through. Hurricane Helene hit Carolina in 2024. And because I live here, this topic was important to me. This is a theme for me. I map things that are important and interesting to me. And I wanted to show that 2 weeks after the hurricane, there were still thousands of homes that didn't have power. And it kind of blew my mind that how long people could go without power. I wouldn't make it. So I wanted to show that. And, again, like focus the eye on, there's 4 categories here, white space. There's no need to see roads or whatever. Like, you just need to see the outline of the state. But the criticism I got here is that the color I chose is not right, because the topic is so powerful, emotional, somber. These are people experiencing a great distress. And I chose like a bright, happy pink color. And I agree with that criticism that I could have gone for something better, because the topic is so emotional. That's cool. Asheville and Charlotte. I love it. This map falls under the rule that it was not an accident. So I made this map for a client in my freelancing, and I wanted to show property parcels colored by zoning. And this is a bonus tip. I love to use a legend as a chart because it does 2 jobs. It shows you what each of the colors means, and it shows you how much of the thing there is. You can see from the map how much there is, but it's harder because stuff is kind of spread out. But if you put it in a chart, then it's like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. I could see that public is a lot greater than residential general. So I think I love using charts as legends. They do a dual purpose. But I posted this map and people came after me on LinkedIn. The city planners came after me. They were very mad at me that I colored the zoning wrong, because in city planning, apparently, zoning has, Keystone Heights. Oh yeah, because you worked on it with me, Ryan. So people were very mad because zoning apparently has specific colors when it comes to city planning. And I did not follow the colors that I don't know, there was some kind of standard, but I didn't know that because I'm not a city planner. But to those people, I say, I don't care. I made these choices. They were following a color palette that I had for the customer. And I love the way this looks. And this is not a planning document. So, okay, I'm glad you agree, Martin, that planners are they were very particular, and they really came after me, but I rebuke those criticisms. And this is a very recent map. I made this just a few weeks ago. And this is kind of bonus tip number 2, is that you can use AI tools to help you do the creative part of mapping. Because for like when I'm freelancing, this was again for a customer. When I'm freelancing, a lot of the times the map has to be delivered yesterday. It's too late. The map should be already done. So it's very fast paced. The customer, doesn't want to wait. So I don't have time to explore techniques and watch YouTube videos or whatever. So it's really great to go and ask AI. So this customer said something like, I want to see, like, I want the viewer to visualize walking through this neighborhood, and I want it to evoke the feeling of like a National Park Service map. And I was like, okay. So I gave all that information to ChatGPT, and it was so helpful in like helping guide my color palette, some of the styling choices, the like what should be highlighted, what should be hidden, what should be featured. So it was actually very helpful in walking me through, because I didn't feel like, troubleshooting the whole National Park Service. So you can use AI. I don't know, maybe one day AI will, replace all of us mappers or whatever, but it's not there yet, but it can be very helpful in helping you guide. If you're having trouble or questions or hesitating, use an AI tool to help guide you. And my final tip, maybe the most important, is I love the people who inspire me, and I appreciate them and thank them. And I just wanted to highlight 3, although there are many. I've copied all 3 of these maps, and you could see my copies down below. I copied Atlas's hurricane map, and I copied Anna's bicycle crashes map. You saw it earlier. And John Nelson is the greatest of all time. I copied dozens of his maps, maybe hundreds. Every single map that you've seen today has been inspired by John Nelson. That man, I appreciate him so much, because he spends his time making very short and very practical YouTube tutorials, and he makes blog posts. Oh, thank you, Cedric, for sharing those links to those 3 people. And I watch so many of his videos, and I follow so many of his techniques. He's like the only cartographer that focuses on techniques that people could learn. And I apply so many of his techniques in my maps. I'm not kidding. Everything I learned about making maps was from John Nelson. And he said he was going to be here today. And if he is, I love you, John. But if you're not, that's okay. I understand. Seriously, an amazing man. And he's been doing this for like a decade, which is very passionate. I would have given up a long time ago. So that's all I have for you. I really appreciate all of you coming out, and I wish I read all these comments. They were flying by as I was talking, but maybe we could like bring up a few right now and have a chat.
Well, Zangovia, Kinga, I appreciate you going through all that with us. It's quite fascinating. I think I'll start with a pretty simple one, but curious. So painting with numbers, art or science, what's your preferred medium to spend your free time in? Data or design?
Yeah, I think I showed it in that little graphic. I think I lean a little bit more design for my free time, unleashing my creativity, because I spend so much time at work thinking so hard about numbers that I like to unwind with a little bit more design. But I don't think any of my maps are pure design. There's always information back there. It might be light on analytics, but I'll hardly make a map that doesn't have some kind of data that's back there trying to, poke through.
I love your portfolio where you have so much data science and environmental science going into your artwork. So painting with numbers really caught me with what you have shared today and have publicly available. Curious about, we've got a question from Dana. Sorry, I have something over it.
Mm.
How do you think differently about these concepts when making a static map versus something that has a level of interactivity?
Yes. Okay. Good question from Dana. Honestly, I do not dabble in interactivity. I love a good static map, and that's where I spend like 99% of my time. Interactivity is like a whole other ball game. It requires different software, different skill sets. So I don't really dabble there. So I don't have that much advice on that topic.
We've got another one from Catherine, and she's curious to know how you make the legend as a chart.
Yep.
Is that
Catherine.
separate from your map?
Yeah, so my this is my workflow. I use ArcGIS Pro. I'm an Esri user, and I wish it wasn't this expensive, but it is. I blame John Nelson for this. It's all his fault. So I'm an Esri user, so I make my maps in ArcGIS Pro. I'll do all my map styling there, and then I export the map and I finish off. I polish it off with the chart labels. I don't even like doing labels in ArcGIS because they're kind of clunky. So I'll export like a basic kind of my basic design, and then I'll label it and dress it up in PowerPoint. PowerPoint is my like medium of work, or sometimes Canva. But I find those two tools much easier to manipulate and dress up a map.
We get used to the tools we know.
Hmm.
So, Kinga, from Camille, do you primarily use ArcGIS Pro, or what other softwares have you dabbled with?
Yeah, I've used QGIS a little bit, but I haven't been able, it's an open source software, so I appreciate that, but I haven't been able to transition to that. And I also use R for coding, and R does have a pretty awesome geospatial capabilities. So I will do, sometimes when I have to do like a deep statistical analysis geospatially, I'll do it in R. But I'll always visualize in ArcGIS. I tried visualizing in R and I don't love it. It just like takes too much time. I think I'm just used to ArcGIS Pro. Oh yes, I saw that
Completely
4.0
understand.
is out. I want to try it now. QGIS.
So, David, what software do you use for this map?
We don't
Which
know which map
mapper
he's
are we?
referring to, but all the maps were made in ArcGIS Pro.
ArcGIS. Have you ever
And
worked with Tableau at all in mapping? The dynamic question versus static, like that's where my love is in being able to filter and ask series of questions of
I
maps.
use Power BI at work. Not
Okay.
I've worked with Tableau very briefly. I use Power BI at work, and I don't love the mapping there. Like it's just like so clunky to me. So I just like I think I'm just like used to my software, and it's kind of tricky to transition. Do you like mapping in Tableau, Ryan?
They do. I took a unstructured data and visualization course 2013 at Notre Dame, and first picked it up while I was working at a photogrammetry firm. I think the first map I put together was of points, yeah, I forget which points they were, but it was thousands and thousands across the U.S. And then learning how to filter and transition. But now I work with even road infrastructure and demographics and filtering down from 169,000 road segments down to just the city of Jacksonville, or specifically with demographic information that was part of my talk, so I'm getting into it a little bit, but yeah, no, I love Tableau, but I had to help them when I started. They couldn't even do a polyline. Now, fortunately, you can
Yeah.
import spatial files and join
Yeah.
them together to
It takes
work with a lot.
time. It
Yeah.
takes time to learn these new tools or these different tools. And so I haven't taken that time yet. But yes, Power BI and Tableau do have geospatial abilities. And a lot of the times customers do want interactivity. So that's what you would be delivering.
Yeah, I'm a QGIS guy, so when we met, you gave me a hard time that I didn't want to work with Arc Pro.
I'm
So
sorry.
Alex Black here, do you work from a brief to, sorry, from a brief to specify design constraints or conventions from the outset or do you work more creatively and then go to get reined in by the client? That's I like that part.
I'm more creative. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really interesting that some people might like have some specifications or whatever and go from that. I'm more creative. A lot of the times, the work that I do when I freelance is like exploratory, and this is what I love about the person I work with. Um, I I like start off and I'll just throw everything on the map. And then we're like, okay, well, I see, some patterns coming out. Well, let's look at this and let's look at that. So the process is very iterative and kind of creative, and there are very little specs. And later in the game, the client will rein me in. They're like, well, I don't want to see that. I want to see this. And I changed the color. So I'll get reined in at the end. But the full design process is very exploratory, which is kind of fun.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. All right, so the next one, I think it's Yugesh. How do you go about finding data for your maps? I spend so long in finding the data I'm looking for. Oftentimes, I can't
Yeah.
find publicly accessible data set or even publicly accessible data
Yeah.
sets.
It's tricky. Over
Experience?
Yeah, over time you kind of accumulate, your go-to places, and like, you bookmark your favorite publicly available things. Other times I'll just Google GIS data for the state of Virginia, and I'll try to find a lot of states in the United States will have, and probably other countries are the same way. They'll have like publicly available state-owned or country-owned repositories. In ArcGIS, there is the Living Atlas, which has a lot of layers, global, and I use the Living Atlas a lot. I don't know if QGIS has an equivalent to Orion. I don't know if you know that, but that's where you just like go there, look for a layer, pop it on your map. So I tend to do that a lot rather than Googling.
I do like the Living Atlas as well, but I will put a plug in here for the group. Follow along on, we'll share a link later with the new networking page on LinkedIn or Slack, and I'm sure you can ask, and somebody will have that information for you as well if you're looking for data wherever you're at in the world. So next question from Ame Rothman. How you doing, Ame? How do you engage end users throughout the development process? Do you incorporate code design or iterative redesign methodologies? And how do you balance user involvement with the need to finish quickly? That's important.
Interesting. These are such good questions. I love all these. For me, because I'm freelancing for a person who interacts with the final customer. I'm two people removed from the end user, so I actually don't interact with the end user too much. So I iterate with my boss and less so with the end user. But she's connected to the end user. So when I iterate with my boss, there's a lot of back and forth. Like I said, we look at things, we discuss, we slash, we add, and it is very iterative. And how do you balance that with finishing it quickly? Like sometimes you have to ship a map that you don't love because it has to be done. And I do that a lot, but that's life. I'm hoping that the more you practice maps, the faster you could get at like, shipping something really awesome, but I'm still not there yet.
All right. So Rose has a question. You mentioned making the flower map was difficult. What were some of the hoops you had to jump through?
Rose, my daughter's name is Rose. I love it. It was just, I don't know, it just wasn't obvious. I don't remember honestly the step process. It was just like, I think ChatGPT helped me figure out what all the buttons, but it's just like annoying. Things don't want to line up neatly inside the polygon. You have to like shift things, and you'd think that would be easy to do, but it's not. Like, it's not something that was obvious to me, and it's not something I ever used before in my workflow. So I thought that was like a really surprisingly tricky process.
Thank you. All right. So Andres asks, how would you showcase your cartography work to attract a new employer or potential clients? would you focus on building a personal website, growing an Instagram portfolio, leveraging LinkedIn, or a combination of these? I think I know what you're going to say. LinkedIn is pretty powerful.
It is. Great question again. I would mix a portfolio with a LinkedIn presence, and that's what I have been doing. Although my portfolio and Cedric shared my portfolio, you're welcome to look at it. It's I haven't updated it in a while, but there's some like great maps there. So if I was in the job market, I would refresh the portfolio and lean into that and do a LinkedIn presence. I found LinkedIn to be very powerful. I've met so many interesting people on LinkedIn. I've gotten jobs through LinkedIn, and posting on LinkedIn is a very powerful technique.
Awesome. Thank you. So excuse me, from Paulina, do you work with satellite data at all?
Not so much, Paulina. I don't love rasters in general. I think rasters, like, there's a whole different level of analysis that comes with rasters that I don't love. I'm more of a vector fan. I do use them because so much interesting and good data comes with rasters, but I I don't typically, and I don't like process satellite. Part of my graduate work was to process satellite data to extract information, and I thought that was really interesting. And the people who do work with satellite data are so amazing, but to me, it's like a challenge that I haven't jumped to yet.
Yeah, I got my start as a pixel bender, making ortho photography and working with radiometrics, balancing maps of counties or college campuses. A funny story, I did a map of Notre Dame, and they had painted the Joyce ACC, the Jack. It used to have a white dome, and now it's more of a tan. And I balanced the entire map of Notre Dame to the white dome that I thought was white. And fortunately, before we delivered it, I was on campus and saw that they had painted it, but had to rebalance everything. You're right. There's a lot of work that goes into
Yes,
raster imagery.
yes. It's like it feels so complicated to me.
All right, from Tala, how long does the whole process take on average you found via your freelancing projects?
Uh, like the process of making a map, Ryan, is that how you're interpreting it? The process of making a map, or the process?
I mean, I don't know, Tala, could you put a little more in a comment?
Well, I'll answer to how I interpret it. The process of making a map on average probably takes me, I don't know, maybe 6 hours, I would say, like half a day of work. But I typically like break it up into like little chunks. I work for a few hours every evening or something like that. So it's a few hours of work for sure. It's not something you kind of slap together. Um, and then there's another angle, like how long does it take to maybe find a freelancing project? That's hard to do. I only have one freelancing gig, and I've had it for years. And I think finding freelancing is really tricky. You really have to put it yourself out there and probably like hustle, make some calls. Ryan would know.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, and that's where we met. One of my first freelancing gigs back in
Yeah.
23, Keystone Heights, where my autistic analytical brain had so much data on these maps ready to
Yeah.
go. It was all set up, and then when you took your white space in your design and reduced it all down, I got to admit I was frustrated with you at first, but you really helped me understand that all the data kind of drowns the narrative of the story you're telling with
You're like, what the
your
heck did
map.
she do? She reduced my map to
Oh,
nothing.
yeah, yeah. I might have been one of those planners as well that asked you why you changed the color scheme.
Yeah.
All right, so from Shika, we've got I'm in the midst of preparing my portfolio. Can you give me some tips for that? I want to reflect the art and science through my maps. I have some projects where I've made some maps showcasing how rapidly the Poon City has changed in 4 decades.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're building a portfolio. You got step one completed. Yeah, art and science is hard to balance in a portfolio because the map itself doesn't show the deep work that you did to like get there, especially if there's like a deep analytical process under there. So that's really tricky for me. Because I do a lot of my analytical code in R, there is a coding notebook that I could share, and that's what I do. So I have actually a separate portfolio that has like more of my coding notebooks because you do want to share your analytical skill set. If you don't have code, I would put a brief snippet for each map to talk about what techniques or models that you use to analyze the data.
That's a great idea. Is that portfolio something you could share with us later and we could post it with this
Yes,
video?
I'll send the link later. It's on the R publications like cloud.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're recording this, so we'll put that link in the on the YouTube, the Data Visualization Society's YouTube channel with it. So great, thank you. Christina asks, what do you prioritize when building a map? The balance done versus perfect,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
two
That's gosh,
balance done, excuse me.
that's a hard one. That's a hard one. Obviously, I have to meet all the requirements that my customer is asking for, right? So it's like, okay, you got to do this and this, and this is what they want to see. Okay. And then if I have time, I'll tinker with the colors and the scaling and the arrangement and all that stuff. But then eventually you run out of time, so you have to leave it wherever it is. So meeting the customer's requirements in the end is the most important thing, obviously. But and then later you just have to try tinkering with the visual part.
Yeah, that's one of my problems. My maps are never done. I still go back and work on things
Oh,
from
yeah.
2011.
Oh, yeah, they kind of never are.
All right, from me to someone who wants to pivot to data visualization, where can one start and how do you make a career out of it? Do we need to know any particular softwares? What would you say? I mean, QGIS is a good for open source, Tableau Public. Those are my defaults that I like to teach just because they're free, easy to get started with learning the concepts. ARC
Mhm,
does have student pricing and nonprofit
mhm.
pricing and
Yes.
some free level. But
Mhm.
yeah, how'd you
Yeah.
get started in your data visualization career maybe and learn your ArcGIS and that sort of thing?
Yeah. I think um I I wouldn't say that I have a data visualization career. I think uh, I think that's challenging. Like for me, my career is as a data scientist, and that's where my strength is, and that's where the bigger value is that has been recognized by my employers. So because I know data science, I know machine learning, and I code, I was hired to do those things. And the data visualization is an aside, is an extra power that I bring to my projects because I can code and visualize. So I honestly don't know how you would break into just a data visualization career. I think that's, and Ryan, if you have any advice, I'd love to hear it. But some common data visualization software, we mentioned Tableau, Power BI, those are your dashboard making. I love R. R actually makes really good data visualizations. I don't use it for mapping, but I do use it for charts pretty much exclusively. But also, don't shy away from Excel and PowerPoint. Those are standard industry software that everybody uses and everybody loves, and people like to complain about them. But they're actually really powerful if you know how to use them well.
Yeah, I got involved initially with the Data Visualization Society in the mentorship program. I'm on my seventh mentee now, and I always try to lead with asking what your values are. Who's typically mentoring early career or late graduates. So when it comes down to the work we do, I try to encourage social good projects for your portfolio. Never a bad thing to have. Doesn't necessarily need to be a business objective, but finding who you are and your values and then applying what skills you've learned really amplifies your growth into data viz. So if you're talented in PowerPoint, but you also know Photoshop really well, blending the two and creating your own process. It can be difficult and tedious and take a lot of times, and that's where Kinga, as you shared in your vulnerability, the ups and downs come from. But even the critiques where you don't like to hear, especially publicly, like you post on LinkedIn, those are valuable inputs. So yeah, I would say to the last one in your process of trying growing with this, follow along with the group. There's quite a mixture of career levels, but also maybe try to find a mentorship program with somebody to have that conversation with longer term. So we'll
Yeah.
probably ask maybe one more question here and then turn it over to do some housekeeping. I am sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Aluasan, maybe? Hopefully I got it right. Uh, so Aluasan asked, you mentioned ChatGPT. Did you engage it for troubleshooting or do you put it in the whole product, maybe create the entire map that you showed?
Right. Just for troubleshooting, now there's like agentic AI that could potentially like plug into software. I haven't tried that yet, although I'm sure that's like right around the corner to make it like extra easy. Um, I have not. I have not asked AI to make a whole. I have, but the product has been awful. So AI right now is not good at making maps, but I'm sure it will get better. I'm positive of it. So typically right now I use it for troubleshooting. I'll ask questions. It's really good at like walking you which button to click in ArcGIS Pro. It knows all those things. So it supports me all the time in my work, but it doesn't produce my final maps. That's still purely my creativity.
That's awesome to hear. Kinga, thanks so much for putting the time and opening yourself up for this chat today. Really appreciate it. You've inspired me on the schedule to come. Wanted to share that here in 2 weeks on April 2nd, we're going to do a cloth and coordinates workshop, working group, I should say. We'll break out and work on our own cartographic canvases, make some maps that use both left and right side of the brains. Hopefully you all can make it. You'll see an invite for that in the following weeks. And then on April 16th, we have Bonnie McLean coming out to talk about visual narrative impacts in your maps. And then rolling into May, we will have a compass critique of the cartographic canvas and do a gallery walk at 7 p.m. Eastern. That'll be the start of our Maps and Mingling networking events. And then John Lipke will come from out in the DC area. He was one of my mentees. He's going to talk about the mentorship program and his dashboard on DC crime and weather correlation. So also, if you aren't aware of all of the spaces we're operating out of right now, follow along and definitely on the LinkedIn pages uh, for the notifications, click the little bell icon and click the all option so that you catch everything from the group. Recently just spun up a DVS geospatial IG networking public group so that we can have a two-way dialogue. Everybody's welcome to join and would love to hear your input on Kinga's talk and more questions that we didn't have the opportunity to get to. Would love to see those there. And Cedric is putting these links up there for you. And if you're a DVS member and have access to the DVS Slack, topic mapping is the channel that we're on there. And if you're not a DVS member, it's definitely worth considering. You have access to the mentorship program, as I said, and that's a very good program in data visualization. So yeah, Kinga, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate your wisdom and taking the time with us all today.
Thank you. And what a turnout and such great questions. And I hope I get to see everybody in a few weeks to look at the maps you guys make.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to that cartographic canvas. So come back and follow along. Appreciate you coming out and taking the time today. You guys all have a great day.
Bye.